I still am mildly, slightly discouraged by the performances against the better teams.
So am I. You know that. Yeah, listen, I think when you start to get into the minutia of Knick games, I think it gets, not necessarily for you and I, but I think just as a radio show, it gets boring. You know, Knicks fans, and so many of you are locked in to every possession like we are, and it's fantastic. But to stretch out the conversation and broaden it and really just stretch the parameters here like we're doing, that's the target that we have to hit. So here's how I look at it, big picture. Last year's Celtics team, their first champions, obviously, their first playoff game was April 21st, right? They won the championship on June 17th. You're talking 2 months of obviously high-level championship basketball. Obviously, they didn't win every single game, couple of hiccups, but they won the championship. Sal, I don't believe, unfortunately, that the Knicks will be able to play 2 months of locked in, tough, against elite teams, the quality of basketball required to win a championship. I still don't see it.
Yeah, and I understand why you would say that. I'm just saying I need to see it first. I need to see what this group could do in the postseason, especially when they're fully healthy, which is obviously not the case right now. So getting Mitchell Robinson back has helped. They have an issue defending. That's been an issue all year long. Still again last night defending the three. Now when they're going to hit their shots. See, that's why the NBA game in today's day and age is weird. Like, well, how come the Knicks lost? Well, they didn't make their shots. Okay, how come the Knicks won? Well, they were lighting it up from downtown. Like, it shouldn't just be about shot making, do or die. And a lot of it is. I think I need to see the Knicks be more consistent defensively, whether it's inside, outside, doesn't matter, and be a little tougher. But they also are built to have, they can't win without, they're not going to be able to beat good teams without Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's the same thing we saw last year. So they're like, if you take away Karl-Anthony Towns and you don't have the guys that they had last year, Hartenstein, DiVincenzo, they're not as good. The reason why they made these all-in moves was Karl-Anthony Towns. Like, he was the focal point of that. Yeah, Bridges is a big piece, and he's got to be better. End of story. Like, Bridges has to be better with this team. But they need Karl-Anthony Towns on the floor. So without him last night, I'm not going to go nuts. I need to see this group. I would lean, like if I had to bet my life on it, that they won't succeed in the postseason. But I want to see how it happens, how it plays out. Because I do think that with Robinson back, there's going to be a different element to this group. And I want to see how they gel and look in the postseason.
Well, by the way, there already has been. I mean, if you look at the amount of points per game that they've given up in the couple of games that he's gotten back, there's been a nice defensive adjustment. Listen, I wish I was able to, and I guess on some level I could, because as much as I say I don't think they're going to win the championship, that first playoff ball, that opening tip, that ball goes up in the air. I mean, hell, I'm locked into regular season games. I'm hoping against hope that I'm dead wrong, and I'd love to see the Knicks absolutely win a championship. But I look at their two best players, and we know who they are, and they are deficient defensively. It's a big problem. I like Tom Thibodeau. He's not 40, he's not 50, he's in his early 60s, right? Is Tom Thibodeau an NBA champ? Is he that kind of a coach? I think he's the second tier. I think he's below that. I think his body of work, while it's been very good, it's proven so far that he's not a championship level coach. And then at the highest level, and then you get to the bench. And I know you can make some adjustments here with Mitch, and if what you can do eventually, maybe start Karl at the 4, Karl-Anthony Towns, and put Mitch at the 5, and have Hart go to the bench. Okay, maybe there's a couple of different iterations of the bench that can maybe change a little bit the way the Knicks play, but the things that are getting in the way of the championship, in my opinion, are not going to change enough for them to win the championship.
Okay, and now here's the counter to this whole thing.
And I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I hate this.
I understand it. Well, you're going to take that away once we get into the postseason.
For sure,
Forget about what you think is going to happen.
But I haven't enjoyed the season. That's what I mean.
Well, that's my point, is that, okay, with everything that we just said, I'm discouraged. You don't believe in this team. They're still the 4th best record in the NBA. The Knicks, who have been a doormat for 20 years. They have the 4th best record in the league, and a lot of us are sitting here saying, not good enough. I don't believe in this team. I don't think that they can beat the Celtics or the Cavs come postseason time. Like, that shouldn't be the right way either. If you're a Knicks fan and you lived through the last 20 years, like a lot of us did, don't you think we're underappreciating or I don't know,
valuing who they are.
Exactly. I mean, they won 40 games.
Honestly, maybe a little bit.
They're easily going to win 50 games. They have the fourth best record in the league. And we're like, it's not good enough.
I know.
How do you go from a 17-win team or the garbage that we saw just year after year to now being like, and that's the problem as a sports fan. It's always got to be championship, like, got to win it all. But you go from nothing and then the build-up, which is fun, and now you're here to get the championship, and it's like we're not appreciating an otherwise terrific season.
Well, yeah, and that's what, and I said this when you were out, that's what really bothers me about me, pertaining to this Knicks season. Like, geez, if anybody around should be enjoying this, it should be me. I mean, I've been watching forever when they're awful. But the reason why it doesn't feel right, because I know the move they made. And we've hit this several times. I don't know what else they can possibly do over the summer. The draft picks aren't there. You're not going to trade Brunson. You're not going to trade Karl-Anthony Towns. Maybe you trade OG or don't resign Bridges at some point. But if you don't retain Bridges, then what the hell did you give up 5 first-round picks for him?
Right.
See, to me, and I've said this before as well, that slow rise, boy, I appreciate the ascent. I appreciate that incremental improvement. That is awesome. That is so much fun as a sports fan. But this is different because they went from an amazing story last year to perceptually being better and taking that next step. And I don't think, a matter of fact, I think they've gone backwards a little bit despite finishing with more wins, which they probably will.
And that's where we disagree. I don't think they've gone backwards. I just don't know if, and again, nobody knows. We haven't seen it. You could use your noodle here and say, well, I've watched this and I don't believe that this team can win in the postseason, but we still have not seen this group compete in the postseason. I do not think they have gone backwards. I do not think they are worse. I think they are better. I think that they have a better chance today to win an NBA championship than they did at any point a year ago. I liked that team last year. It was fun. Even the year before was also fun. But this team is better. I just don't know if it's going to be good enough to win an NBA championship.
I don't think they're better. I strongly disagree. I don't. And I'll tell you why, right? So last year, now we weren't sure, to be fair, what their ultimate ceiling was.
Right.
Like, even if they stayed healthy and OG's, not banged up and Jalen's not hobbling around, then all the other players, and Mitch stays on his feet. Well, yeah, Randall too.
The majority, the second half of the year, whatever it was.
For sure, but I'm talking about from the playoff version, right?
Yeah.
We knew, or we listen, if OG's not hurt, they're going to find a way to beat the Pacers, probably getting knocked around a little bit in the conference finals, but that would have set the template for, okay, look at this and maybe if they make the conference finals, maybe they still make the Karl-Anthony Towns trade. Not saying that they shouldn't have, but why I think they've taken a step backwards, as much as none of us really viewed them as a championship team last year. Unless my memory is getting a lot worse than I think. I don't think I'm there yet. I'm not that old. I don't remember last year going into these games against the elite teams saying, I don't expect the Knicks to win tonight. The Knicks don't beat good teams.
Right.
Last year, they beat good teams.
But it was different. The Knicks played harder than everybody else in the regular season. They were a tough team, or at least it felt that way. I shouldn't just dismiss everybody else. But, the Knicks played pedal to the metal. They had that grit last year. They had that toughness. Maybe caught the more talented teams off guard for a night or two. But in a long series, they had no chance to beat, at least in my opinion, to beat the better teams in a best of 7. Whereas this year, while it's been alarming or eye-opening to see them against the few teams that are actually better than them. Like, there's not everybody. It's how many teams are we talking about?
There's
3, 4 teams. Right now, by record, there are 3 teams that are better. Now, the Warriors just got Jimmy Butler, so they're going to be better.
Yes.
The Lakers are ascending. They've won 7 straight, obviously, with the addition of Luka Doncic. So we'll see where the Knicks end up as far as overall. But right now, at this point in the season, we're in March. The Knicks have the 4th best record in the league. So we're talking about the Cavs. We're talking about the Thunder. We're talking about the Celtics. And those
what's the record?
Yeah, I mean
0-7.
Those matchups were,
and a lot of them were blowouts, dude.
Understood.
They got punked.
Understood. Well, I understand. That's why I'm saying I'm slightly discouraged. But I'd like to see it in a postseason series. I still think that this team, well, not I think, I know this team is more talented than it was a year ago. And I would rather have that. We talked about it with Coach Pitino as he used St. John's. saying that in year 2, you look for that foundation and the toughness and the heart, and then by year 3, you're going to start to bring in some guys who could actually shoot the basketball and some talent. Well, that's where the Knicks are at in their build-up. Thibodeau laid the foundation. They had guys like Reggie Bullock and Alfred Payton.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Nerlens Noel.
Yeah, right. And it was fun to watch. Those guys played hard. Love that. They get to the 4 seed, lose to the Hawks. Okay, followed up. Obviously, Randall had a bad year, whatever. But 3 of the last 4 years have been good, and there's been an ascension. There's been a climb. Last year with Hartenstein and DiVincenzo, that was a really fun group, a good group. They took it to another level with the talent. Now, we haven't seen it work to the highest of degrees, but they still have the 4th best record in the league, and there's an unknown. They've been without their best defensive player in Mitchell Robinson all year long until now. So there's still an unknown element in the postseason, and I think that they're better now going into the postseason than they were a year ago.
Let me frame it one more, a different way. We'll get to the calls here. And, I feel like the Knicks fans or kind of split on this team. Like last year, it was just one big party. It was like a rock show, and you couldn't wait for every Knicks game. And I know Knicks fans are still pumped up, but I wouldn't be so bold to say that half of the Knicks fans aren't feeling this team the way I am, but or the way I'm not. I think there's a bigger percentage maybe than some people think. I think there's a lot of people who kind of see and feel what I feel. Doesn't mean we'll be right, and Lord knows I hope that I'm wrong, but I look at this, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. I'm going to say it. If I had a chance, they had one big move to make, and if I was running the Knicks and I had, what's this? This is like the Evan and Tiki button?
I guess.
I could hit Juan Soto. Yeah. And I could hit a button and I could take back that trade for Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
I would do it. And it's not a knock on Karl-Anthony Towns. He's a hell of a player, and I hope his girlfriend's okay with the cancer, and I really know he's in a tough spot. It's not a knock on the young man. He's a hell of a player. But it does, if you're good, if that's your massive move combined with Bridges, you did not transform yourself into a champion, in my opinion.
Yeah, but
that's the problem.
And we've had this conversation. The counter is what move? Like, I'd have more of an issue with Bridges, who I thought was going to be much better than what he's been, than Karl-Anthony Towns. Now, Towns in the postseason could prove to be soft or whatever it may be. I like Karl-Anthony Towns. I think he brings them to another level.
Yeah.
We've got to see it here with the Knicks. But if not him, then who? And if not an answer for that, you can't just keep, like the Giants quarterback situation, kicking the can down the road. Like at some point, the Knicks with this group, BT, it's been years. Like this goes back to 2020. Forget about the bad years. I'm talking about Tibbs here, Leon Rose, building this thing up. I think they were disciplined and very disciplined and patient over the years, waiting for the right time to strike. They couldn't bring back Hartenstein. I know you loved him. I know a lot of Knicks fans loved him. I know what he brought and the importance that he was. Couldn't do it, okay, financially.
Not their fault, CBA.
They were in a spot where, okay, we've made the climb. We've been disciplined. We've got all these assets. We need to strike at some point. This is that was the move. I don't have a problem with it because I don't think it was a better move or a better time.
How about Luka?
Yeah,
I mean,
but
Luka
again,
listen, I don't even know what the other move would have been. I just like the big moves that they made. It feels like a B+ move when you need an A to be a champion.
BT and Sal on the Fan, our friends at Town Fair Tire, remind you that at Town Fair Tire, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Vince is in Poughkeepsie. What's up, Vince?
Hey, so listen, man, you guys want to blame Tibbs. I don't get it. You're saying if he was coaching Boston, he wouldn't win a championship? Players win championships, not coaches. The Knicks last time they won a championship.
Hold on a second, Vince.
Wait, last time Knicks won a championship, they had Hall of Fame players.
I understand that. No, I know that. I have a question for you. So, because it's got to work both ways. If we were lauding Tom Thibodeau, and we were, for squeezing blood out of a rock, and you just heard some of the names, Noel, Moutier, Burks, right?
Yeah, Alfred Payton.
Payton, for sure. If he was the subject of our adulation for overachievement, then I'm going to speak for myself, if I believe there's an element of underachievement, why can't I say that and blame him a little bit?
Well, because it doesn't work, because it's not him. So it doesn't work. So Steve Kerr, if he went to the Knicks instead of Golden State, he wouldn't be coaching anymore. It's not about the coach, man. It's the players.
Vince,
win championships.
You're right, but we're saying two different things here. And thank you for the call. And you're exactly right about Steve Kerr. Had he taken Phil Jackson's offer and been with the Knicks,
he would have been Jeff Hornacek.
He would have That's exactly right.
How long? Yeah.
He would have been Jeff Hornacek. I totally forgot about Hornacek. But we're grading Tibbs on a different scale here. At least for me. I can't speak for BT. BT gives his opinion. I'm going to give you my opinion. And other people obviously have their issues with Tibbs as far as the minutes police and all those different things go. Tom Thibodeau needs to prove himself in the postseason. I think he's proven himself as a program builder.
Yes.
He's been able to get teams, take them from the bottom, and build them back up. And he's had good players, whether it's Derrick Rose in Chicago, you know who we had in Minnesota, and obviously now with the Knicks, with Jalen Brunson being the lead dog and Karl-Anthony Towns bringing him back to the Knicks. But Tibbs has to get over the hump in the postseason to be considered a great coach. That is something that's unproven. And until he does, there's going to be the question marks. Is his style, going pedal to the metal in the regular season and all the minutes and all that, is that the right style to win a championship? Until he wins one, that's going to be a fair question. Doesn't mean he can't coach. Doesn't mean it's not about the players. But there is still a question mark about Tibbs.
Well, I mean, listen, I know the NBA is pretty much, if you have great players, it becomes a little bit of autopilot-ish. But, you know, if you're splitting hairs, the separating factor, if you have a comparable roster, you have the better coach, the adjustments, and that stuff matters in a 7-game series. So I understand, and I don't really bang the drum too much about, I'm not a real minutes police guy. I'm talking about stuff that I think also really impacts the ability to win. I see things that he does in the fourth quarter. I'm like, what are you doing? Why is this guy still on the bench? This guy just knocked in 3 shots. You pulling him? Like, there are other things, not just that he runs his players into the ground sometimes.
BT and Sal on the Fan. More calls when we come back on the Fan.